Stacia, a U of L nursing student. 9 other nursing students and I created this video about diabetes to be used as a helpful tool for you. It is going to teach you about what diabetes is and the main things about management. There are 4 parts to this video. The first part is about what diabetes is. The second part is about medication and how to properly take it. The third part is about nutrition. And the last part is about exercise, including the importance and some simple exercises for you to do. We hope you find this information helpful, and remember, if you have any questions, to please ask your healthcare provider following the video.
In this portion of the video, we will explain what diabetes is and discuss its risk factors, symptoms, and complications. Diabetes affects people of all ages and backgrounds. However, there are common risk factors associated with diabetes. These risk factors include family history of diabetes, lack of physical activity, being overweight, being over the age of 40, being African American, Native American, Hispanic, Asian American, Asian Indian, or Pacific Islander. So what is diabetes? Diabetes is a chronic condition that develops as a result of increased glucose or sugar in the blood. When we eat, the food travels to our stomach. During digestion, the food we eat is broken down into glucose or sugar. In the normal digestive process, sugar travels from our stomach to the bloodstream. However, the sugar cannot enter the muscle and fat cells without the help of insulin, which is made by the pancreas. So again, our pancreas makes insulin. The insulin then binds to our muscle and fat cells to allow the glucose or sugars to enter these cells. The cells then will use the glucose or sugar as energy for the body. With diabetes, your body cells do not respond appropriately to the insulin, or the pancreas does not make enough insulin. Insulin binds to the muscle and fat cells to allow the glucose or sugar to enter these cells. Since there is not enough insulin, this results in the sugar not entering the cells, causing the sugar to stay in the bloodstream, which results in a high blood sugar, also known as hyperglycemia. So what causes a high blood sugar? The causes of hyperglycemia include eating too much food, the pancreas is not making enough insulin, not taking enough of your diabetes medication, illness, or stress. The common symptoms include extreme thirst, frequent urination, and hunger. What happens if your sugar gets too low? Having low glucose in the blood is also known as hypoglycemia. The causes of hypoglycemia include eating too little food, too much insulin, or strenuous physical activity. The common symptoms include shaking, fast heartbeat, sweating, dizziness, anxiousness, blurry vision, headache, irritability, and fatigue. What are the complications of diabetes? Over time, high blood glucose damages your blood vessels, both large and small. This damage leads to complications that affect the whole entire body. Complications include heart attack, stroke, kidney damage, blindness, nerve damage, and risk of limb loss or amputation. To reduce the risk of acquiring any complications involves medication compliance, physical activity, and a balanced diet.
Now we're going to talk about how to check your blood sugar. So first you want to start off by washing your hands. You can use hand sanitizer or soap and water, or you can just use an alcohol swab and you can just clean the site. So first you want to make sure you get your strips, and you want to make sure that they're not expired, so check the expiration date. So just get one strip and get your meter and put the strip inside the meter. Next thing that you want to do is, on the site that you cleaned, you want to take your lancet and you want to use the side of your finger, and you're going to go ahead and poke your finger. So when you do that, you're going to get a drop of blood, and you're going to take the edge, when you get the drop of the blood, you want to make sure that you take your alcohol swab and you're going to wipe away that drop of blood. The first drop of blood. And now you're going to have another blood drop come up. And you're going to take the strip and hold it towards the edge, the top of that drop of blood. And you're going to wait for your meter to tell you your results. And there you go. You have your blood glucose results. And so one thing to remember when you're checking your blood glucose or your blood sugar is that different meters do different things. And so you just want to make sure that you refer to your user manual for specific instructions. And so we talked about checking your blood glucose. And so it's good to keep a log of your different blood glucose because you want to know what your normal ranges are. And so you can do that by putting it in a calendar or whatever's best for you, but you just want to know your different ranges. And so what are normal ranges? Well, according to the American Diabetes Association, the normal ranges before a meal is 70 to 130, and 1 to 2 hours after a meal is less than 180. So those are good numbers to keep in mind. So we talked about how to check your blood glucose, but when should you check? So it's always important to remember if your doctor gives you specific instructions, you definitely want to follow those. But it's important to check your blood sugar before meals and also after meals. And then sometimes you just know your body better than anybody else. So if you feel shaky or if you feel like your sugar might be low, then you want to check. So if your blood sugar is low, meaning if it's less than 60, then what you want to do is drink something sugary. So you can have about 4 to 6 ounces of a juice, or you can have some sugary candy because you want to try to get your blood sugar up a little bit. So what you want to do after that is recheck your blood sugar. And so if it's still down, still less than 60, you want to have something sugary again, so the juice or some sugary candy, and you want to recheck your blood sugar. So if it has gone up, you want to have a different kind of sugar. So you want to have something with protein in it, like peanut butter, so that you can try to keep your blood sugar at a higher level.
So what I'll be talking about today is oral antidiabetic medication. Oral antidiabetic medication is used when exercise, nutrition, and weight loss no longer work. The 3 different ways oral antidiabetic medication works is either by increasing insulin, decreasing glucose, or increasing the body's response to insulin. Take the pill with meals unless your doctor tells you otherwise. Take them at the same time each day, and oral antidiabetic medications can also be taken with food or milk if you experience an upset stomach. If you miss a dose, take it as soon as you remember. Do not take it if it's almost time for your next dose. If you experience any of these symptoms, tell your doctor. Muscle pain or weakness, numb or a cold feeling in the legs or the arms, trouble breathing, feeling dizzy, lightheaded, tired, or very weak, or if you have stomach pain, nausea, vomiting, or a headache. Also, tell your doctor before taking antidiabetic medications if you have liver disease, kidney disease, heart disease, high blood pressure, or allergies.
In this portion of the video, we're going to be talking about insulin, what it does, and how it's administered. Insulin is an injectable form of medication that lowers your blood sugar. So you can be taught to administer this at home, and you can be taught when to do it. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. So there are 3 really important things to know when you're taking insulin. The first is when the insulin is going to start working. So what insulin does is that it lowers your blood sugar, and it does that pretty quickly. So you need to know when it's going to start doing that. This is called the onset of insulin. The second thing you need to know is when the insulin peaks. This means at what point after administration is the insulin highest in your body. This lets you know when your blood sugar is most likely to be low if you haven't eaten. And the last thing you're going to want to know is how long the insulin lasts. This is known as its duration. How long the insulin lasts is important for knowing when you should administer something else or when you should be watching out for a rise in your blood sugar. There are 4 main types of insulin, and we're going to talk a little bit about each one of them and the onset, peak, and duration of each. The first kind is rapid-acting insulin. Rapid-acting insulin is going to start acting in 10 to 15 minutes. This is its onset. So 10 to 15 minutes after administration, it's going to start lowering your blood sugar. The second thing is its peak. Rapid-acting insulin peaks in 30 to 90 minutes. So if you haven't eaten, this is the time that it's probably going to lower your blood sugar the most. So make sure you eat as soon as you administer any kind of rapid-acting insulin. And the last thing is its duration. Rapid-acting insulin only lasts 3 to 4 hours. So if you're only taking this rapid-acting insulin before meals, you need to make sure that you're taking it every time you're supposed to so that you don't have any rises in your blood sugar. The second kind of insulin is regular insulin. This has an onset of 30 to 60 minutes. So half an hour to an hour after administration, it's going to start lowering the blood sugar. It's going to peak at 2 to 4 hours, and it's going to last about 6 to 9 hours. The third kind of insulin is called NPH insulin. It's going to start in about 1 to 2 hours. That's its onset. Its peak is at 3 to 8 hours. It's going to be the highest concentration. And it's going to last anywhere from 12 to 15 hours. The last kind of insulin is long-acting insulin. It's going to start acting. Its onset is going to be in 1 to 2 hours. And one thing unique about long-acting insulin is that it doesn't peak. So it's going to stay at a steady concentration all through the day. And it's going to last all day long. Its duration is about 24 hours. There are also kinds of mixed insulin. And mixed insulins kind of give us the best of both worlds. The onset, the most common mixed insulin is 70-30 insulin. The onset is going to be in 5 to 15 minutes. 70-30 insulin can have a dual peak, which means it can peak twice. The first time at 30 to 90 minutes, and the second time at 4 to 10 hours. Its duration is 10 to 16 hours. One thing that's really important when you're administering insulin is that you need to eat after you administer the insulin. Remember that this is going to lower your blood sugar, and if you're not eating, you're going to have a really low blood sugar. So make sure you eat after you administer it. Another thing that's really important is how you store it. On your bottle of insulin, there should be an expiration date, okay? You want to make sure that you check for an expiration date before you administer the insulin. If it's expired, it's not going to really work the way it's supposed to, and you may have lower or higher blood sugar levels because of that. If you have an unopened bottle like this one, the cap is still on, this needs to be stored in the fridge. Once you pop the cap off, like this, you can keep it in a room temperature environment or in the fridge. Either is an option. Now I'm going to show you how to administer the insulin. The first thing you're going to want to do when you're administering the insulin is clean the bottle. You never know what kind of germs are going to get on the top of your bottle, so you just want to scrub it with some alcohol to clean it off. Scrub it for about 30 seconds. Okay. The next thing you're going to do is get your insulin syringe. Insulin syringes look kind of like this. What's really important is that you know how much insulin you're going to be giving. So that's going to be based on your doctor's recommendations. So let's pretend that you need to give 10 units of insulin. The first thing you're going to do is draw up 10 units of air. you see that that's at 10? The top of my stopper, this little black stopper, is right at the 10 mark. So that's exactly where we want it to be. We're going to inject this air into the bottle. Just stick it in. The reason you inject the air is because over time, if you don't inject air, the bottle becomes empty because there's nothing in it, and air can't get in, and it becomes really hard to pull the insulin out. So you inject air each time you pull insulin out. To keep most people administer their insulin in their abdomen. Then you're going to turn it upside down. Some people prefer the back of the arm. But that's really hard if you're doing it yourself. You can also use the legs again, so that you're drawing 10 units of insulin out of this bottle. Can you see that it's at 10 again? Okay. Then you can pull the syringe out. Check for any air bubbles that might be in there. You can flick the syringe a little bit to try and get those air bubbles to the surface. And then if you have to, you can push up on the syringe a little bit just to make sure that they're all out. Next, you're going to be administering the insulin. You can pick a site that works best for you. The easiest if you're administering it on yourself is probably going to be around your belly button. One really important thing to remember when you're administering insulin is not to give the insulin in the same spot every day. Kind of move around every time you give the insulin, that way one spot doesn't get sore. Alright, before you do any kind of injection, you want to clean the site. You can clean the site with some alcohol in a circular motion, starting in the middle and going outward. Then you want to pinch up the skin, insert the needle at a 45-degree angle, inject the insulin, remove the needle, and you may want to hold slight pressure over the site if you have any bleeding. Once you've administered, you can cover it with some gauze or something if it bleeds a little bit, but don't massage it. When you massage it, you make it be absorbed faster, and we don't want that. So don't rub the area right after you administer it.
Hi, my name's Chris. I'm a student at the University of Louisville School of Nursing. Today we just wanted to talk to you a little bit about nutrition education and managing your diabetes and what that'll look like. So what are good plans you can make to eat right while you're trying to keep your blood sugar in check? So let's go ahead and get started. Before we start, just a quick reminder, we're going to talk about it a little later, but when you go grocery shopping, it's important that you go with an idea of what you want to cook. We want you to have a meal plan ready so that you know what you need to buy to make these dishes. It's also important so that you don't go and impulse buy Cokes and chips and things that we all like but aren't necessarily the most healthy options. While you're there, also be sure that you're taking time to read food labels and consider the nutrition content of the various foods you're going to buy. And we're going to talk about that in just a bit as well. So take your time while you're shopping. We have here an example of just a food label. You'll find something exactly like this on a lot of foods and very similar on other foods, but they have laid out a whole slew of useful information that you can just take a look at from top to bottom. We'll run through it real quick so you can know what all of it is and what all of it means. At the very top, you'll see right here it says serving size, and it says 4 ounces, which they have in parentheses is the same as 113 grams, whatever your system of measurement, it's up to you. But so that's just telling us that in this container, it says servings per container, 4. It means in this 16-ounce container, what they're considering to be 1 serving is 1/4 of it. And you can see as you go down, they'll have all these different nutrients listed and how much of each nutrient is listed. and that is per serving. So remember that if you buy something that has 4 servings and you eat the whole thing, you're going to get more than just this number next to fat. You're going to get that times 4. So as you move down, they show right here a little reminder, amount per serving, and then there's a column of all of these different nutrients. So they've got fat up at the top, they have total fat, and then they have that subdivided with a couple of additional categories. Saturated fats and trans fats. You're going to want to try and steer clear of those where you can, and you want things that are called monounsaturated fats, maybe some polyunsaturated. The big words are actually the healthier ones, so it's just something you can be looking for. And then as you see, each content item has what it is per serving, and then what that is as a percentage of your daily value. The column to the right is all daily value percentages. It tells you how much of what you're supposed to have for the entire day is in that one food item in that one serving. So you know that because this has 14 grams of fat and it's 22%, you know you shouldn't really eat the whole container in one meal, because then you're already at 88% of your day's fat intake. It's little simple decisions like that, just being aware of things as you're shopping, that will help you to manage your diet well. I'm going to skip a couple down to carbohydrates. We're going to talk a little bit about that later as well. What counting carbs is, because you hear people talk about it and it's not really clear, but carbs are important. They're your body's favorite source of energy, so we're going to definitely not want to exclude them, but they do affect your sugars, so we want to just meter them, be cautious with them. And then it'll have listed, moving down, sugars, fibers, proteins. You'll have vitamins and minerals, and then down at the bottom it says these percent daily values are based on a 2,000 calorie diet. The number of calories that you burn in a given day might be higher if you are very active or you exercise a lot, which are great things. So know that these might be slightly different for you. These are just a starting point, something that you can look at to have a number so you can make a plan. So we can go ahead and move on. And there's a thing now called MyPlate. It is the new version of the food pyramid. The food pyramid was around forever and everyone's heard of it, and they decided that it wasn't the most accurate representation of the portions you should be eating of the different foods. So they've made this. This is MyPlate for non-diabetic. We'll move on in a second, but I just wanted you to see how they lay out foods as a ratio, as a proportion of what goes on your plate for each meal every day. So they have a little over a fourth is vegetables, a little over a fourth is grains, and then a little under a fourth of each fruits and proteins with a single cup of dairy. So that is for non-diabetics. If we move forward just a little bit, we can see what they've created for diabetic people in just an effort to help them plan more specifically. You can see that it's very similar. You can see that your starches are still about a fourth. Now they're exactly a fourth. Your meat or your other protein source, so fish, whatever floats your boat, there is another fourth. And then they have kind of omitted your fruit section and replaced it with vegetables. And they tell you why on the right. They say your starches are going to raise your blood sugar, so that's why you're not eating a whole plate full. Your proteins are going to raise your blood sugar a little, but they're good to help stabilize you, so you always want to include them. And vegetables have little effect on your blood sugar, which is why they'll be the bulk of your meal. They provide you with a lot of nutrients and fiber. They're very good. They cut out fruits because they're very full of simple sugars. So that'll spike your sugar, and then it will crash as soon as that spike begins to wear off. So this isn't to say that you can never have fruits and never have dairy ever again, because you can, and you should, honestly. They're good sorts of nutrients. But we want this to be kind of the model of your average meal, and we want you to be just considering how you could plan around including fruits and dairy products, knowing that they will be sources of simple sugars in the case of fruits, or maybe fats in the case of dairy. But this is a good starting point. moving on from here, we've included just a list of some examples of your different food categories. We've got grains at the top, and off to the side you can see how much of each specific food item is considered to be one serving of grains for your day. So there's a good variety: bagels, breads, muffins, pasta, popcorn, rice, tortilla chips. There's something to appeal to everybody, so that's nice. And you can see that sometimes the servings are a little smaller than you might think. You might think a heaping plate of pasta is one serving, but this will tell you that 1/3 of a cup of pasta is a serving. So you just take time to look at your serving sizes when you're planning your meals, because sometimes they can be deceptive. At the bottom we've got starchy vegetables and beans, and the same information. Feel free to pause the video and take some time to look at this list, but we are going to move on. This is a small reminder. It's actually kind of big, but how to count carbs. We talked about it. I told you I was going to tell you about it. Now I'm going to tell you about it. So the gist of it is about 15 grams of carbohydrates equals 1 carb. You would think it would be 1 equals 1, but that is not how it works. So just as you're seeing on food labels, total carbohydrates, 30 grams. Know that if you're counting carbs, 30 is 2 15-gram portions, so you know that it is 2 carbs. So you can do math like that, just on the fly, to keep track. We've included a list of fruits and dairy products as well. You can pause the video, read over them, but it's good to look and be reminded of what serving sizes are, especially with fruits and things like orange juice, which everyone knows is really healthy, but is also really full of sugar. So just be cautious as you're planning, and we can move on. One quick note about alcohol. Drinking alcohol can cause your blood glucose to fall quickly. So if you do drink, you always want to drink in moderation. This is true for diabetics. I would say it's true for everyone as well. Binge drinking is just not a healthy choice for your blood sugar, for your liver, for your stomach, for your brain even. But especially never drink on an empty stomach. This will change the way your body absorbs the alcohol and how it affects your blood sugar. And be aware that as you're drinking alcohol, it's going to add calories. It's going to take away calories that you could otherwise be getting from foods that have other nutrients. So you'll need to plan to include, maybe if you want to have a beer with dinner, just know that calories there need to be taken from some other part of your daily food plan. When you're at a restaurant, just a couple quick tips. Feel free, don't be too shy to ask how food is prepared. You know, ask, is it fried, is it breaded, what do they fry it in? As a general rule, to be making healthier choices, you would want to avoid fried foods, breaded foods, things that are drenched in butter, cream, and you'd want to choose instead grilled foods, steamed foods, things that aren't being saturated with fats while they're being cooked. Sauces are often filled with fats, so if you do get some with your meal, I like sauce with pretty much everything I eat, but try to use it sparingly, because that'll be kind of a hidden source of fats and oftentimes sugars as well in your diet. Don't be shy about taking food home either. A lot of times restaurants will serve you gigantic portions, and there's nothing wrong with eating half and bringing half home, because gorging yourself on a plate of pasta at a restaurant will wreak havoc on your sugar. So just, always be mindful of it. There's a note about buffets and being sure to make your plate kind of look like my plate with your portion ratios. But just be mindful of everything we've talked about, and you should be okay. One last little point is about dieting. If you are dieting and you want to lose weight, starving yourself is not the way to do it. It never is, but especially not with diabetics, because of the way it affects your sugar. So what we want to do are small, simple things that would be easy to look over but will make a big difference. So consider cutting calories by eating less fat in the foods that you choose, drinking fewer sugary beverages like Coke and fruit juice. And if you're cooking something, try, instead of using Crisco or butter, to substitute in healthier oils in small amounts. If you take time to plan your meals for the week, I know that you can build a healthy diet based off what we just talked about. And I know that your doctor will be excited to hear about the work you're doing. Don't be afraid to talk about it with them. They'll have a lot of really helpful input. But thanks for joining us.
Hi, my name is Autumn. I'm going to talk to you about some helpful recipes that you can use as a diabetic that are tasty and pretty easy to make. First, we're going to talk about breakfast. I know you've heard that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but especially for a diabetic, this is true. Your breakfast is going to set a baseline for your blood sugar level, and it's also going to help you have energy throughout the day without those harmful spikes and drops in your blood sugar that you may experience. So for our breakfast recipe, we're going to focus on these egg muffins. They are high in protein and high in your daily vegetables that you'll need if you add your vegetables in, which will be good. And if you follow this recipe and recipes like it, you'll be able to not only control your weight, but if you are following these recipes similarly, you're going to control your weight and be able to have better blood glucose control, because if you lose just 5% of your body weight being overweight, you will have tighter control over your blood sugar levels. So these egg muffins, you will need a stove, a muffin pan and muffin cups, non-stick cooking spray or olive oil, 12 to 15 eggs or 15 to 20 egg whites. If you use the whole egg, it will raise the cholesterol content in your meal just a little bit, but if you use egg whites, you'll need more and they're a little bit more difficult to separate out. 1 teaspoon or more of Mrs. Dash. Any type of seasoning that you feel goes well with eggs is perfectly fine to use. Fresh ground pepper to taste. That's optional, you don't really have to add that. 1 to 2 cups of grated low-fat cheese. This is also optional. I suggest that if you're also going to use meat later on in the recipe, that you only use 1 cup of cheese instead of 2, because that will raise the cholesterol in the meal a little bit more. 3 green onions diced small. Optional. Once again, if you don't like green onions, you don't have to add them. You can also add chopped vegetables such as blanched broccoli, red pepper, sauteed zucchini, mushrooms, anything that you really think will go well in your eggs. This is also optional, but I highly recommend it because it will reduce the fat content in your meal and will also reduce the calorie content, and you'll feel fuller throughout the day, as well as getting those needed servings of vegetables that you have to have every day. Finally, you can add diced Canadian bacon, lean ham, or crumbled cooked turkey sausage. All of these are optional. They will also raise your cholesterol count in your meal, but it'll give you a boost of protein, and personally I think it'll taste better. You can pause this at any time and look over it if you'd like to see it further, or just copy it down. But I'm going to go over these instructions really quickly. What you need to do is preheat your oven to 375 degrees. While your oven is preheating, spray your muffin pan with the cooking spray or the olive oil. And in the bottom of the muffin cups, after you spray them, put your diced meat, vegetables, cheese, and green onions, whatever you're using the combination of. You want the cups to be about 2/3 full after you put these ingredients in, and you want enough room between the ingredients to be able to pour the egg and it'll go through it, so don't pack it down really hard. After this, break your eggs into the large measuring bowl with a pour spout. Add your Mrs. Dash, black pepper if you're using it, and mix it well. Then you're going to pour the eggs into each muffin tin until it's about 3/4 full. Once again, you're going to make sure that the egg gets all the way through your ingredients. So it'll be about 1/4 of the way from the top. You can pull your ingredients apart slightly with a fork if you'd like the eggs to really surround them. You bake this from 25 to 35 minutes or until the muffins have risen up and are slightly brown. Now these muffins are nice because they'll keep in the refrigerator for a week, which means if you're running short on time in the morning, you just grab one out and pop it in the microwave. You want to heat it up for 45 seconds to a minute after it's been refrigerated. You can also freeze these and then thaw them later in the refrigerator, so they'll keep for much, much longer. And you just want to make sure that if you do freeze them and thaw them out, you don't want to refreeze them. This can promote the growth of harmful bacteria. This recipe and others like it that are good for diabetics can be found at www.kaylinskitchen.com, and we have the link up here for you. Okay, next we're going to talk about lunch. This is a really simple lunch recipe that you can take with you. It's portable, easy to make, and doesn't require a whole lot of ingredients. This is turkey pepper avocado wraps. So for this recipe, you're going to need 8 to 10 inch low carb tortillas, 1 tablespoon of lightly flavored mayonnaise, green lettuce, 3 thin slices of deli style turkey breast, 3 slices of thin avocado, 3 slices of seeded yellow peppers, and thinly sliced red onions to taste, as well as roasted red bell peppers to taste. So the making of this is really simple. All you're going to do is spread out your tortilla and put mayonnaise on your 1 tablespoon of mayonnaise on one side of it. Then you're going to put the lettuce and 3 slices of turkey on it. Then put your avocados and yellow pepper slices throughout it. So if you're looking at it, it's going to look like a lovely little plate that's you're just layering everything out really easily. Then you're going to take your onions and your red peppers, if you wanted them, and spread them over top of the yellow peppers. Finally, you are just going to roll it up and split it in half. It's good because it'll keep. You can put it in your lunchbox, grab it really fast, make it beforehand, take it on the go. You can find this recipe, as well as other recipes that are good for diabetics, at youtube.com. And this one is for the specific website. It is called tastysolutions.com, which Valerie will mention later after she talks about her dinner video.
Hi, my name is Valerie and I'm a student nurse here at U of L, and I'm really excited to share some tips and tricks with you. For one, I want to share a really neat recipe that is so simple to do, and I also want to share some budgeting ideas that might kind of help when you go to the grocery store to know what to shop for and how to make it a little bit cheaper. So first we're going to start with the recipe that I picked out. So this is called Sopa de Lima, and it's so simple that I didn't even put instructions on the slide. So all you're going to need for this is just 6 cups of chicken broth. And I advise that you get the low sodium chicken broth just because this helps with hypertension, with high blood pressure, and it's just as easy to pick out as just regular chicken broth. And then you need 2 medium chicken breast halves, and this can be either frozen or raw, and you can cook it. And then you need 1 medium yellow onion, 3 cloves of garlic, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and 1 cup of green chilies, 2 tomatoes. And what we're going to do with the tomatoes is we're just going to scrape the insides out and just use the outside of it, so take the seeds out of it. And then a half a cup of lime juice. And I think you can just buy lime juice, but you can also use, I think it's about 5 limes makes about a half a cup of lime juice. So either one, you can either juice them yourself or buy it yourself. So if the chicken isn't cooked, you need to go ahead and cook it. You can just boil it on the stove and get that prepared first. And then we're gonna go in and we're gonna just take a big pot and we're gonna add our 6 cups of chicken broth to the pot and let that just simmer for a while on low heat. And while that is cooking or on the stovetop, you're going to take the rest of your ingredients, specifically the yellow onion, the garlic, the green chilies, and the tomatoes, and you're going to saute them in the olive oil on the stove. And this just takes about 7 or 8 minutes until they're nice and browned, especially those onions. They're a good indicator. So we're going to take all those ingredients once they've been sauteed, and you're just going to dump them into the pot to make the soup. And then we're going to add the chicken in there, and then last we're going to add the half a cup of lime juice to the pot. And you just stir it up and you can let it simmer for about 15 minutes, and that's it. You've got dinner for about 6. And this is really nice because you can take this to work and heat it up, or you can eat it for dinner. But it's a really nice recipe, and it's pretty simple, and it's not very expensive. So that leads me to this website that I got it from, that's tastysolutions.com. It's an awesome website. It was done by some students at New Mexico State, and they've got some great recipes for diabetics that just lay out what ingredients you need, how to make the stuff, and then they also show you the nutrition facts guide, which I think we referenced earlier. So that's good because that shows you what all those ingredients together, how that plays into your nutrition. So this is a good site to check out. They also have YouTube videos that help walk through the process, so that's really neat. The next thing I want to talk to you about is budgeting, and just some simple tricks that you can use when you're grocery shopping. The first one is we like to suggest that you grocery shop around the perimeter of a grocery store, just because when you do that, that's where all of the fresh foods are normally. If you're in the middle of a grocery store, you're gonna have your prepackaged items, your junk food, and the stuff that you really just honestly don't need. So it's good to stay on the perimeter where you've got your fresh fruits and vegetables, you've got your fresh meat, and you've got your fresh bread and that kind of thing. So it's good to stay there. It's also sometimes cheaper to stay there. So one thing that I suggest when it comes to a budget is that you buy the store brand of an item. I've heard even before that the store brand and the really expensive brand are all made in the same factory. So it's the same product, it's just cheaper to buy the store brand. So that's a really good way to cut that down. Another thing that's really good is I've noticed that, like, if you buy whole carrots, it's cheaper than if you buy little baby carrots, because that's how they actually come, is the whole carrots. And so you can, if you just price compare, sometimes those little changes can make a big difference. Something else that I found in the meat section is just that when you buy chicken particularly, you can buy the whole big container of chicken, and you can cook it all up at once and freeze it for a while, and then use what you want to use sparingly as you go. And I think that's about it for some of the suggestions that I have. It's just good to be aware of what you're paying, and I know that's important to all of us in the economy today, but these are some neat recipes that I hope have been really helpful to you, so that they can help you stay on a budget and stay with your diabetic diet. So thanks for joining us.
I'm Stacia, a U of L nursing student, and today I'm going to talk to you about exercise. So why is exercise important? Exercise is important for everyone, but it is especially important for people with diabetes or people who are pre-diabetic. Exercise is important for diabetes because it helps you control your blood sugar levels. It does this by two ways. It brings the sugar that is in your muscles out to be used as energy, and it helps your insulin work more effectively. So most people think of exercise as part of losing weight, which is a main reason for exercise, but there are many other health benefits. The American Diabetes Association suggests that exercise helps decrease your blood pressure and cholesterol levels to help reduce heart disease and stroke. It strengthens your muscles and your bones. It improves your sleep. It reduces stress. It helps improve your mood and adds energy. Exercise doesn't require belonging to a gym or wearing special clothes or running. It can be done anywhere or anytime. All you have to do is get started. Exercise is about picking activities that you enjoy doing and doing different exercises so that you don't get bored. The American Diabetes Association recommends doing 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and they recommend not skipping for more than 2 days. There are two different types of exercise. There's aerobic, which is about being active and raising your heart rate, and then there's strength training or resistance training, which is about building strong muscles and bones. So to start, you can start slow and work your way up. Exercise is great because you can do it any time of the day and do it anywhere. So exercise is about getting moving and continuing to do it on a regular basis. It's all about starting slow and working your way up to a goal. It can be fun, you can do it with family and friends, you can do it with music, you just have to do what works for you. The easiest exercise of physical activity is walking. Walking's easy because it can be done anywhere, it can be done indoors or outdoors, it doesn't cost anything, and you can break it up into short amount of time. So for instance, to get your 30 minutes, you can do 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the middle, and 10 minutes at the end of the day. Other activities that can be done for physical activity include dancing, bicycling, swimming, playing sports, running, active housework like vacuuming, yard work, anything that gets your heart rate going. Strength training can be done by lifting weights, and you do not have to have special lifting equipment. You can use household items to do this. Other exercises will include using your body to help build strong muscles and bones. The main thing is exercise is about being active, but you don't have to do it specifically. You can be active throughout the day. Some ways to do that is take the stairs instead of the elevator or the escalator. If you drive, park at the end of the parking lot and walk in. If you're on the phone and it's wireless, get up and walk around. If you're watching TV and there's a commercial, get up and walk around. You just have to be creative. Some safety tips I do want to go over with you about exercise is start slow, drink plenty of water during, middle, and after. Before, middle, and after. Test your blood sugar, keep a snack with you. Make sure you're wearing proper tennis shoes and socks. Check your feet before and after for blisters, redness, or sores. Stop activity if you feel any pain, shortness of breath, or lightheadedness or dizziness. Warm up and cool down 5 minutes before and after. Make sure you stretch. Wear a medical ID bracelet, and make sure you have a cell phone with you. I'm now going to bring my friend Leah in to talk about checking your blood sugars, the snack, and then she will demonstrate some exercises for you.
Hi, I'm Leah, and I am also a nursing student as well as a certified personal trainer. Stacia mentioned about testing your blood sugar before you exercise. So it is important to make sure that you're not having incidents of high blood sugar or low blood sugar before, during, or after exercise. Symptoms of low blood sugar that you might experience while exercising are shaking, dizziness, fatigue, or excess sweating. To prevent having low blood sugar during exercise, you want to make sure that you take a snack with you. I recommend taking something like trail mix that has a good source of protein and carbohydrates. It's also really important to carry some water with you so that you can stay hydrated throughout your exercise. The last tip that I would recommend is that I like to write down my exercises in a notebook ahead of time so that I can have a list and check them off as I go along. As we mentioned before, you can do exercises at home with several household items. Today I'll be using a can of pineapples and a can of black beans. You can use any type of can. If you haven't been working out, it's nice to start small and then work your way up. I also recommend using items such as your couch, a chair, or a bedside table or something like that that you can utilize for your exercise. So the first exercise that I'm going to show you is an upper body exercise that exercises your biceps, which is the muscle in the front of your arm. This is called a bicep curl, and I'll use my pineapples and my black bean can. And I'll bring my arm up slowly and make sure that I'm bringing it down in the same fashion. I want to avoid going too fast so that I can make sure that I'm doing the exercise safely and effectively. I would recommend doing about 10 repetitions of that exercise for 3 different rounds for a total of 30 repetitions. As you continue doing the exercise, you can work your way up to 15 to 20 repetitions per set of exercise. The next exercise that I will show you is another upper body exercise that works your tricep, which is the muscle in the back of your arm. I'll be using the end table for this. You want to get away from the table a little bit and make sure that your leg is at tabletop and 90-degree angle. In this exercise, you'll be using only your upper body to push yourself up and down. If you've been doing this exercise for a while and you want to make it harder, you can put your legs out and then cross one leg over the other. Once again, I would recommend doing about 10 repetitions of that exercise for 3 sets for a total of 30 repetitions and working your way up as you go along. The next exercise that I will demonstrate is a lunge. This is a lower body exercise that works the front and back of your leg as well as your bottom. I will be putting my hands on my hips for balance, but you can do this in a different amount of variations. So the first thing is that I want to make sure that I'm completely balanced before stepping out. And when I do, I'm going to lower down and make sure that my knee is not past my toe. I like to do this in an alternating form, but you can do one leg at a time, like this. The next exercise that I will do is a squat. This is also a lower body exercise. You want to make sure that your knees are not going past your toes, so you want to make sure that your feet are stable and your chest is up and your back is straight. I'll push out my hands for balance as I push back my bottom. Once again, I would recommend doing about 10 repetitions of that as well. Another exercise you can do is another upper body that works on your shoulders as well as your triceps and biceps. This is called an overhead press, and I'll be using my hands again. So I'll have my arms here and then extend them above my head slowly so that I can make sure that I'm doing the exercise safely and effectively. That is just a sample of exercises that you can do at home. One last tip is that whenever you are exercising, that you want to make sure that you're breathing in between repetitions and exercises and taking plenty of time to rest and rehydrate yourself. Thank you for your time, and if you would like more information about any of the exercise tips or safety tips that we suggested, you can go to www.diabetes.org.
On behalf of my other group members, we want to thank you for your time and watching this video. We hope that you learned something more about diabetes and its management. Please remember if you have any other questions to ask your healthcare provider.